Today, on a special bonus edition of Locked On Canadiens, we have our thoughts, our feelings, our musings, everything to do with Heated Rivalry. I'm just going to say that this episode is going to be entirely clean and it will contain no spoilers past the events in the TV show. However, we do advise discretion if you're listening to this with your kids around.
You are Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome to a special bonus edition of Locked On Canadiens. We're so happy to be doing this. This is our bonus episode to talk about Heated Rivalry. This is my current ADHD hyperfixation. I cannot get enough, and my wonderful co-host is indulging me and allowing me to get all my feelings out on the show. First of all, my name is Laura Sab, also known as the Active Stick. I forgot to introduce us. And my wonderful co-host is named Ian Poivert. You might know him as maybe it's Ian. We have a daily Montreal Canadiens themed podcast, but we get to do special things on the weekend sometimes, such as this. Ian, how are you doing? And are you ready to talk about literally this thing that's taken over my entire life?
I'm ready, and I would like to just do a quick backtrack on the fact that this was the show we were talking about weeks ago when Laura called me crazy for wanting to wait a week in between episodes of things, and she did not watch until every episode was out. So I feel like this is a real full circle moment for us where we can kind of, I'm mentioning this only to say that we are burying that hatchet for the purposes of this program. And the second it's over, that feud is back. But we're burying that for this. I just wanted to set the record straight that really, that's kind of what sparked this whole thing.
Yeah, that was almost the podcast divorce. So real quick, I will say this. Even though I personally, this is how I watch things, you should not do that. As you know, as a society at large, if we want these shows that we fall in love with to get renewed, to get the hype, we should be watching them in real time, right? Like I know, like there's a lot of streaming platforms that take the numbers from like the first 48 hours or whatever. So the way you guys all did it was the correct way. Personally, I would not have been able to last between episode 4 and 5 and 5 and 6. Like I could not wait a week. So let's talk about that real quick. Actually, Ian, where did you first how did you first start watching the show? Because to be honest, when you told me that you and your wife had started watching it, I didn't even know it was available in the US.
Yeah, it was streaming in the US. It was sort of at the time I started watching it, I think it was just starting to get some serious traction just amongst hockey fans who, were all talking about it. I was like, okay, I'm going to have to figure out what this is just from a cultural zeitgeist standpoint. I needed to understand what people were talking about it, and I really am glad I did, because it was really the first season's phenomenal. It's really fantastically written, fantastically acted. I thought the fact that Connor's story is not actually Russian blew my mind. It still does. I think he does a phenomenal job, but really it's just I have FOMO of memes, so I need to understand what all these memes are that are going around. And there are a lot with this show that really, I'm really glad that I understand. So well worth the watch. What about you? Like when I know we talked about it, we joked about it earlier.
Yeah.
But you had read the books previously, right?
No.
No, you hadn't.
So I was aware of the books and I was aware that the show was coming, but somehow I missed that when it actually dropped. And then in the span of 2 days, no less than 3 of my friends literally used the words. All of them said, "This show is my entire personality at this point." And they had said this to me when it's the 3rd episode, but it was the 2nd week. The 3rd episode had just dropped, right? So that's when we had that conversation. And I said, I don't want to watch it until all the episodes come out. This is how I watch a lot of streaming shows. I know I'm in the minority. And I did call all of you chumps, but you guys are right.
Chumps
right?
Was the word. Thank you. I couldn't remember the word. I had blocked it out because I wanted to believe my friend thought highly of me, but I couldn't do that.
And so I waited, and then I went to Europe for Christmas, and so the last episode dropped, and then I came back, and my wonderful co-host, even though I had called him a chump, said, I'll take this episode. The night I got back, he said, I'll take this episode. I said, all right, I'm going to get home, I'm going to shower, I'm going to watch Heated Rivalry, and then I promptly fell asleep, and I fell asleep the first night, and then the second night, and then the third night. I kept falling asleep at the exact same point, which was the shower scene. So I saw butts and then I fell asleep.
Yeah,
And that's how it worked, right?
that tracks. How many times have you watched it all the way through to this point?
Like,
Because I know that
yeah.
this is your whole life right now.
It is my whole life. So, like New Year's Eve, my friends and I canceled our plans, and I was so excited because that's when I watched the show. I watched all 6 episodes New Year's Eve, and then I woke up the next morning. I literally just started watching it again. I had to go to brunch with my family, came back and just kept watching it. And then that day, I purchased all the available books on Kindle. She has since announced a seventh book, and I read the books covered like all the way through, like this. So I had a few days off, obviously New Year's weekend. Read the books all the way through, and then I read the two Holinov books again a second time. And at this point, I've probably watched the show maybe 4 or 5 times all the way through.
Can you just quickly, at first mention, define Holinov just really quickly?
It's like all the novels that are related to Shane and Ilya's story.
Right, it is the ship name for them. I pieced that together. There might be some folks who didn't understand that. I wanted to make sure we were all the least common denominator is the same.
Yeah. I'm just assuming at this point, if you've listened all the way like to here, you already know what we're talking about, and you're also a
Sure.
fan of the show, right? So, like my first impression of the show at the beginning, it was a slow burn, and I didn't realize I was going to get so into it until episode 4. I think at that point, it has hooked you at that point. But I don't know if people realize just like how rare it is to have something where so many people have the same collective experience, and people are still talking about today. We're recording this on Jan 16, that they're still talking about I can't stop watching it and replaying it over and over again. So I don't know. Your impression was very different, right? Like you still really, really enjoyed the show.
Yeah, and I think part of that is the way that I watched it. Now, I think when we started it, the first 2 episodes were out, so we watched the first 2, and then we were on a weekly cadence. But like the way that these episodes were written and the sort of the pacing of the show is that I think the anticipation of what was coming next always made it that last episode feel so much better, right? You've come over the hill on the roller coaster, but then you're right back on the top of another hill and you're waiting to see what happens next. So I was very much, along for the ride in that respect. But I feel like the last 2 episodes of the first season are just 2 of them. Like waiting the week in between those 2 was unbelievable. Like I was just like thinking the entire time, what is going to happen? So that was really fun. It was a fun experience to have, the whole build up. The first, what is it, 4 episodes, 5 episodes, 4 episodes. You get to that point, and then episode 5 and 6 is just like, oh my God, I can't believe all of this happened all at once.
Yeah. I do really quickly want to talk about the like actual hockey on the show, but I want to mention something. So a lot of people have discovered this show because of 2 podcasts that are talking about it, like hockey related podcasts. One of them is Empty Netters, and the other one is What Chaos. And I just want to say, I feel like What Chaos is not getting enough credit. The Empty Netters guys are doing great. They're getting, they're even getting stars of the show. They did like this great reaction video, like with feelings and all of that. They are very, very mainstream. And I do think that it's made a lot of people who maybe would be uncomfortable admitting that they would watch the show, they made it okay for those people to admit to watching the show, right? But I really just want to like shout out Pete Blackburn and DJ Bean. On What Chaos. Like I know Pete personally, but not DJ. And I know that even in the past, like they've been very visibly allies of the LGBTQ community. So for me, it meant a lot for them to talk about this. And they were the first like mainstream hockey podcast to do it. And I really don't think that they're getting enough credit. So I just really want to shout them out. I did thank Pete personally, but I just feel like this is something that needs to be said. All right.
We don't hold on. Their take.
Oh, yes. We have a disagreement with them.
Yes. I have one beef with them, and it's that they thought that when Hollander is looking back at Rosenov and he gets drilled coming over the blue line, they thought that was enough, and that Montreal needed to trade Shane Hollander. And I think that's the craziest thing ever. Like the alternative to that is like Sidney Crosby is not paying attention because he thinks someone's cute, and Darian Hatcher cracked him. They're not trading Sidney Crosby because of that. That's insane. But otherwise, fully agreed with what you had said.
I like how era accurate your argument.
Yeah, that is the comp. As far as I'm concerned, that's it. The comp.
But let's talk about the hockey just a little bit. Like for me, a lot of people are like, oh, you know what? Don't go in expecting good hockey. But that's not why I was watching the show, right? To me, hockey was literally just the framework.
Right. And I think, is it Francois Arnault who plays Scott Hunter?
Yeah.
I don't think any of these actors are particularly strong skaters. Let's put that out there. But Francois Arnault gets a really rough spot because a lot of his skating shots, his whole body needs to be in the frame.
Yeah.
So a lot of them you're watching like from Kip's perspective in the stands, and you're watching him skate and you go, he can't skate. But like with Rosenoff and Hollander, the actors Connor Story and Hudson Williams, a lot of their shots are from the waist up, and you can make that look like you're skating really well.
Yeah.
But I was listening. It was Connor Story was on Seth Meyers, and he said, I thought I was skating really well, and then someone took videos like behind the scenes. He goes, "Wow, I actually don't know how to skate."
Well, that's the thing. And to his point, right? Like the other, like the guys, I guess you call them the stunt people, like they're actual hockey players, right? Not just their doubles, just the other hockey players on the ice. Those people have been skating since they were children. Every time a player gets drafted, there's like a picture of him like getting his hockey skates at like two years old at Christmas or whatever.
Right.
And so these guys had to learn, and this is not like any other show or movie where they have months to prepare. Ordinarily, they would have 3 months and you learn this and you learn that, and you learn your Russian and all of that. But they had apparently only 8 or 9 days, and then they had to show up. And so they were learning to skate while also filming the show, which I think is crazy to me. But like the biggest hockey thing that I found really, really funny was the reference in Sochi to the black mold.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I completely missed that. Was that a thing in Sochi? I don't remember
So
that at
when they're
all.
in Sochi and Scott Hunter and Carter Vaughn find Shane, and they like sit around and talk. One of them says like, "Does your room have that smell?" And then someone else says, "I think it's black mold," or something like that. And I was like, it took me back to the discussions we were having about the black mold in Sochi.
Yeah.
But yeah, like otherwise there are a couple of other things that I want to mention because we're going to get into like the storylines and everything like that. But we'll get into that in just a second. But all those people that were like, "Laura, don't expect good hockey," I didn't mind. I was
yeah. Like I don't like that's not that's nuts.
The accuracy.
Sometimes I watch Canadiens games and I don't expect good hockey. Like that's not fair.
For me, the reason for hockey was obviously the context, and in particular, hockey is not a very welcoming sport to LGBTQ plus people, and in general, the context of just that masculinity that they wanted to portray in the show. All right, up next, we're going to talk about our favorite storylines, our favorite lines, just like little things that we noticed and we really love. And that's coming up in just a moment. There's nothing like being near the ice during hockey season. The speed, the hits, the atmosphere, it's unmatched. Watching at home is great, but actually being in the building is a completely different experience. The only thing that used to get in the way was actually getting tickets. Long queues, endless screens, and prices changing at checkout. That's why the Game Time app gives the advantage back to fans. It's the hack for unlocking amazing NHL tickets and experiences in just a few taps. Here on Locked On Canadiens, we've used the Game Time app to see games a lot. We went to see a game in Buffalo last year with our former co-host, and just recently, Ian and his wife came to Montreal for their first ever game at the Bell Center I got to go to, and we used Game Time. Why? Because it made it so easy. We were able to see the view from the seats before we bought, so we knew what we were getting into. There are no hidden fees, so there's no surprises at checkout, and they have zone deals. You pick the zone, they find the best seats, and everything is so easy. And I've even seen tickets on there that are $25 sometimes. So take the guesswork out of buying NHL tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. All right. Do you want to do this like episode by episode or just like storyline? What are your thoughts?
How do you want to take this? I think you have a more because I've watched the series once through. You probably have a more direct relationship to each individual episode, whereas me, like it's the story as a whole.
I also have ADHD though, so my mind is all over the place, right? So I'll try and like stick sort of to the chronological order. I thought for me, the first episode was, I understood why some people found it tough to get into at that point. Like they needed to get to episode 3 because it is a very slow burn. I think for me, the first thing that was established was I know that, Rachel Reed based her books on the rivalry between Sidney Crosby and Alex Ovechkin, but the prototypes of the stars, right? The Canadian superstar is very rigid. He does everything correctly according to expectation, right? Whereas the Russian superstar, we only allow that when it's actual superstars. Like, we only allow them to be flashy and get under people's skin. You have to be, you've got to be an Ovechkin. And I think Rachel Reed like mentioned like somebody like Timo Solani or Jaromir Jagr, right?
Sure.
We don't let hockey players get away with having personality unless they're that good.
Right. No, it's definitely true. And sometimes even when they are that good, we don't let them get away with the personality, a la PK Subban, right? Like, he was not allowed to be PK Subban in Montreal, and that's why he was pushed out. So I completely agree with you on that one.
So when I watched it, and I had watched it a few weeks after one of my friends had, and she made the comment like, what Habs fan wrote this? And then when I saw that, I was like, oh, it's because, the Sidney Crosby type comes to Montreal. I was like, Rachel, like that hit me where I live. I couldn't unsee the Sidney Crosby of it for a while until like we really got into the storyline. Because all I was doing was I was looking at like, oh, he has endorsement deals. Oh, he's the youngest player to get signed to Rolex or whatever. Oh, he's this. Oh, he's that young captain. So it took me a while to kind of like see him as a separate person and not just an archetype.
Yeah.
I found. And so that was hard to get into.
Yeah. You've peek behind the curtain. Laura provided us with the rundown for this episode. She's very excited about this. And I'm going to read a line almost verbatim, but there's some language in here I can't use. She said, I need to talk about the banana in the smoothie. It is making me insane. Laura, take it away.
All right. So this is episode 3. So we've done our slow burn. They've hooked up, all of that. Episode 3, Scott meets Kip, and Kip is making smoothies. And as a person who is allergic to bananas, I'm calling BS. There is no way you are going into a store and asking for extra banana in the smoothie because it's already there in the ingredients. It's already there everywhere. And sometimes they even refuse to make it for you because there are no blenders in the place that have not touched banana. So this is, to me, it's the most unrealistic thing ever. If you open up your Uber Eats or DoorDash or whatever and you look for smoothie places, look at the smoothies, they all have freaking banana. There is no way in hell anybody has had to ask for an extra banana in a smoothie. And that drives me insane. And I know this is my lived experience. And it's also like there's no extra banana in the book. They just added it in here to be funny, and it's phallic. Everything is like phallic and like or round. And so like to me, that extra banana, and there's also like a joke about it. That's the most unrealistic thing for me. People are like, why aren't they getting bitten by mosquitoes at the cottage? Other people are saying other unrealistic things. And I'm like, this to me is taking me out of the show. The extra banana is driving me crazy.
Your immersion was destroyed by an extra banana. Also, when he hands him that smoothie, there's no banana in that smoothie. That was purple liquid. Like there was nothing in there that looked like there was any thickening agent that happened in that smoothie, which is what the banana is really there for. Like, it's not, I don't, okay. It didn't ruin my perception of that scene, but it was I'm going to meet you halfway and say that was an odd choice for them to do that.
But they actually said it was because they made real smoothies and they kept separating because of like all the takes they had to do. And so over time, like, it wasn't working. Speaking of Scott, my friend Megan asked me to address this, and I'm so glad that we waited until today to do this, or / we didn't have time before today to do this, because Francois Arnault actually did address this. So she was talking about his running gait. So this is a lot of like people are talking about he runs like Phoebe Buffet. And my position, my position on this was always he's listening to this podcast that is criticizing him, and he's getting more and more angry and agitated as he's running. And that's why we're seeing that gait, right? Crazy thing. I didn't realize that Man in the Crease was Connor McKenna and Sean Starr. I honestly, you listen to them in Montreal every single day. I worked with him for 3 years, once a week for 3 years, and I did not recognize his voice.
Did sound familiar.
It is Connor McKenna.
Yeah, I'm learning this for the first time. That is unbelievable.
Crazy. Yeah. So Man
what
in
a
the
credit
Crease.
for him.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Anyways, and it's great because like I also like always talked about him as having like a great radio voice, and then I didn't recognize him because I was like too busy looking at Scott's running gait.
I am an original ice level listener. So for those back in the day who were listening, it was Berkshire and it was Robin Flynn and it was Connor McKenna. Yeah. And I completely missed that. That's unbelievable.
Anyways, crazy. But so Francois Arnault actually addressed that on Andy Cohen Live, and that it was a choice that was made. He's portraying it as he's listening to this podcast, getting angrier and angrier, running that way, and then like stopping and like walking into the smoothie place. Right. So that's for my friend Megan. It was purposeful, and I feel vindicated because that's what I always thought it was. Skating though,
hitting
on
this.
that. Okay, back to Sorry,
do
go on.
you want to do some favorite lines or scenes, or maybe
Yes.
some of your least favorite ones? Let's start with favorite ones.
Favorite ones. Okay, so there's a couple. Obviously, the part where they tell each other they love each other, like that's like my favorite scene in the whole show. In terms of like, there's a couple of things where like it's like little things. When Shane gets drafted and the GM for the Montreal Metro starts talking to his mom about how thrilled he is that Shane is Asian, or how thrilled we are that her face,
Yeah.
like to me, like that acting was amazing just because that is a woman who has been microaggressed against her entire life. And this is another version of it. And so the look on her face, I thought it was so good. So my favorite scene, like just overall, was where they confess their love to each other. The hotel room scene
Mhm.
where Shane not just confesses, obviously everyone knows that he's gay, but he's like saying it out loud for the first time. But what I and we're going to talk a little bit more about the relationship later, but I felt that that was a situation where Shane was fully the one in control, even though he was the vulnerable one in that position.
Sure.
Like I just thought that was really amazing. The club scene, the way that was shot, I thought was really because
It
it
was
like
it was disorienting.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And so you like at one point you are following them, and then all of a sudden everything is happening all at once, and you're having all those feelings. Like I thought that was really good. And then obviously the scene with Shane and his mom,
Yeah.
where she apologizes for not being the kind of person he could talk to about that.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you are on the show for those perspectives, because mine are very much the moments that made me laugh the most. Ilya Rozanov is one of the funniest characters
Yes.
written in a long time. And I love, like, so many times it could be a very touching or maybe even explosive moment, and he breaks the tension with some kind of just dumb joke. And the funniest one is in the last episode, the cottage episode, where Shane picks him up at the airport, and he gets in the car and he just kind of looks around and goes, "Is this a Jeep?" Like, and he's like, "No, it's European." It's like there
It's
are a lot
gonna
of times
snow.
where that humor peeks through, and you can just like, you just remember, oh, these are just two guys that are just also sometimes meatheads, and they're just button heads a lot. Like, but I Ilya Rozanov is one of the best written characters. But my favorite scene in the entire first season is when Shane is in the hospital after his hit, and this is the one that's gotten memed, so often, where he's like high on drugs and he's talking about like he's inviting him over to his cottage, and he's very much just like loopy and out of it because Rozanov is not. And in that moment, I think it's funny because Rozanov is so often the comic relief in a lot of these scenes, and now he can't be. And even as the character, he's like, I feel like he kind of thinks that Shane is getting the better of him, from a conversational standpoint, and it's making him angrier as it goes on. Like, I really, that's one of my favorite scenes I've seen in a long time.
I really love how these guys like drive each other insane. Like it's so funny. It's so
Yeah.
good. And I really hope we see more of that in the next season. And something that I do want to say, I know we're going to talk a little bit about that later as well. Something I do want to see like in the second season is like I've read all the books. Ilya Rozanov is a character through all of them. And he does a lot of chirping. And he's so annoying. Like how nobody in this universe has murdered him yet, I don't know. And I want to see more of that. I know the hockey scenes are really hard to film. I know they're expensive. I get it. I need to see Ilya Rozanov chirping people and getting away with it.
Well, and one of the chirping scenes we got was Hollander chirping Scott Hunter,
Oh, yes.
be like, basically being like a cartoon character, be like, "Haha, you weren't on your game in this one," and he delivers the most devastating burn
Yeah.
in return that starts a fight after the game. Like that was the
So
only
good.
version of that. Like, it almost felt like it should have been backwards. That maybe Rozanov should have been the one delivering that line. I don't know how it was written in the book, but like if we're talking about chirps, like maybe that a Rozanov chirp is worth a little bit more of that kind of Hunter response than maybe Shane skating in and be like, "Haha, better luck next time." Like that's essentially what he said.
But okay, so this is another thing. Okay, let's move on to our next segment because I want to talk about some of the relationships, and that really ties into what we were talking about. So we'll be back in just a second. The NFL playoffs are here, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action. Because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts you can apply to the bets you like the most. Open your profit boost pack first thing on game day and see what boosts you want to apply. The boosts let you lean into your game day instincts, whether you're backing momentum, defense, quarterback play, or coaching. The boosts give you more juice on the bets you already like instead of forcing you to bet something new. Every play feels bigger, and the boosts make your bets feel that way too. You make your picks, then apply your profit boosts to go after even bigger payouts while the playoffs get rolling. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. If you've ever hired someone who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit, you know how important that is. When you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. Hiring? Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and help reach the right candidates faster. If I needed to hire someone for this show, I'd go straight to Indeed and be very specific about what I need. Real experience, not just a resume buzzword. Sponsored jobs boost your post to the people who are the best match for your role, and that makes a real difference. Spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Do it the right way with Indeed. Okay, so the Shane chirping Hunter and then Hunter being like, "You're starting to sound like him."
Yeah.
You've only seen the show and you haven't read the books. In your mind, does Scott know? Has he clocked that this is
Yes.
happening?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think it's from the
All-Star game, the first
All-Star
episode.
game where he skates by and he says
Yeah.
his room number. Like
Yeah.
he knows what's going on.
I think they played it to be ambiguous, but it's really funny because anybody who's read the book already has the bias because in the books it's a little bit different. But the TV show does such a good job of being like, yeah, he knows, maybe not, he knows,
Yeah.
kind of, you know.
Yeah.
I thought that was
If I had one complaint about the show, it would be how the Scott and Kip storyline felt rushed. Because they got a whole episode. Episode 3 is all about them. And then you don't see them again until episode 5. And he just won the league championship. And he points at Kip in the stands like, wait, the last time I saw you two, you were invited to his birthday party and you said no. And then the episode closes with you in the street watching this birthday party take place. Kind of odd. And then like the next time he's at the game in your seats. Like so, a lot happened in between those two moments that wasn't shown in the TV show. And if I was disappointed in one thing, it was how quickly that was wrapped up.
It wasn't wrapped up. They resolved everything, right? Like we're 3 years later because the year that they meet is like the Sochi year, and then the year that all of this cottage stuff happens, I think, is 2017.
Right.
So like it's like a few years later, right? So like what has happened in these 3 years? Like have they just been like hiding this relationship for 3 years and like Kip's okay with it? And then the other thing too is like Kip's at the game with his dad. So like, has he told his dad that he's seeing Scott Hunter? What's going on, right? Like we know that his friend knows, you know, and so you kind of see his dad smiling at him as he's like getting up to go down to the ice and stuff. So like, are you thinking, did his dad just clock this or has his dad known all along? So for me, the whatever conversation that they had or whatever resolution that they had to their relationship where they agreed to be in a relationship and like just hide it, that didn't happen. Like we didn't get to see that. And it could have just been one conversation, and I find that was missing. But I did want to kind of talk about the evolution of the relationships a little bit because, like, with Scott and Kip, everyone talks about how, like, oh, it's so fast, it's very intense, it's like love bombing, blah, blah, blah. It's a TV show, first of all.
For sure.
But I do think that because both of these players are, like, they've come to terms with the fact that they're not players, sorry, the two people have come to terms with the fact. One of them is completely out of the closet. One of them is just like, he's come to terms with it. Whereas like with Shane and Ilya, Shane has not come to terms with anything. It takes a long time for that. So like, I feel like the contrast between the slow burn and the like very quick relationship, that also plays into it. I don't know if it was like a conscious choice or not, but like to me, that really makes a difference, right? Like we don't have to see that journey for Scott.
No. One thing I definitely noticed, and I think it follows along with the sort of development of the Hollander and Rosenoff relationship, and then Scott and Kip, but mostly because we just see more of them, Hollander and Rosenoff, is that at the beginning there are a lot more of those spicy scenes than towards the end, because their relationship has progressed to a different point, right? Like they're not like, yes, they're still doing those things, but it's not as important as the development of like, okay, but what are we at this point?
Yeah.
Right. Like that becomes more important later on. Like what's shocking to me is the cottage episode, right? There's like none of that. You don't really see any of that stuff. Meanwhile, like the first 2 episodes, 60% of it is spicy scenes, to the point where I told my mom to watch the show and she texted me some very choice words after the first episode.
That's the difference between you and me. I can't tell my mom to watch a show like that. In fact, I hope she doesn't even watch this one and then get curious, because then I'm gonna have to hear about
it. Yeah, and then I saw her like the next week. She goes, "Oh, we're like 5 episodes in." So I was like, "Great! It did not deter you. You did great."
Well, that's also like kind of like a conversation that I've seen happening is like, because like some of the actors or whatever, they say like, we get you with the spicy scenes and then we keep you with the story. But a couple of people have told me like I had to get past the spicy scenes because I wanted to get invested into the story in the story. I think for me, the moment, let's go back to Scott and Kip. You can't do this with somebody with ADHD. I'm just going to go all over the place.
We're doing fine, man.
This is our show. We can do what we want. We didn't even talk about like all the like the musical cues, but the relationship between Scott and Kip, the way that, the culmination with that scene on the ice, it was like this massive moment. I really think that was, I mean, it's obviously the catalyst for the show. It's like one of the biggest moments, but I also think that a lot of people found that moment to be very, I don't want to say healing. It's more like we don't get endings like that in rom-coms for queer couples or gay couples. We don't see that, right? We see, first of all, there are very few rom-coms like that, but we don't get that amazing, incredible, cliche rom-com moment. But we do here. And it's 2 big moments within like the span of a few seconds, right? Because then you get the call from Ilya to Shane. But I just also think with the music going on, if you notice at the beginning of the Scott and Kip episode, that's what's playing. Right. And I know Jacob Tierney said on What Chaos, he really wanted to use that song. He cleared the song months before they started shooting. It's like his favorite love song. And I just want to say that for people in my age group who date men, that song has been ruined for like 36% of us. So this show was also healing for us. It rewrote the narrative of that love song for a lot of us. And so I thank Jacob Tierney for that too. But it's just so funny because in any other show, it would have been the biggest moment, but then it's followed by a moment that's arguably even bigger.
I love I love the aspect that you talked about where we got nice endings, right? Like it's, even though the first season, the final episode ends on a bit of a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
It's not a cliffhanger in the sense that we're afraid of what's going to happen next, but there's anticipation for what's about to happen in a positive way, which rarely I can't imagine it's easy to write something like that. Like to write it where that's how an episode ends, where you're not sure what's coming next, but you don't feel doom because of it. Yeah. Where so much of this show, right, is, like I talked about the first Scott and Kip episode, the ending of that is kind of doom-ish. Like, what is happening here? Like, I really like watching these two hang out. It would be cool if they could continue to do that. And then the episode ends and there's a window in between them, which is like, kind of, it was sad. But like for that storyline to be wrapped up in honestly like a storybook type way, and then for the Shane and Ilya moment to be not wrapped up, right? We're still anticipating what's going to happen next, but in a way that makes us feel good about what's about to happen, I think is really important. Yeah. Because you're right, there aren't a lot of stories with characters like these that end this way.
Absolutely. Okay, so can we go back to the beginning of Shane and Ilya just a little
Yes,
bit? I know we're jumping all over the place. This is how my brain works. This is
that's
literally
fine.
like if you were me, this is exactly what my brain is. So one thing that I really liked about this, about their relationship throughout, is that it kind of presents like Ilya's the one in control, right? He's the one who's more confident. He's the one
Yep.
who's initiated a lot of the intimate scenes, right? Or it looks like it, right? But if you look at the other cues, it's actually Shane that's in control because sometimes he chooses not to answer Ilya's texts. Sometimes he chooses not to engage. Like there's like this whole thing at the beginning of the second episode, which is like, why are they texting for years and they don't close the deal? Like that drove me nuts. I was like, I would just block the guy's number at this point. Like, but Ilya's still trying and Shane is still pushing it off. And so like it felt a lot like the progression was a lot more in Shane's hands. And then obviously he's also the person who in Tampa, he was the one who kind of initiated the conversation. And he was kind of like, this is, I've had enough of this. We're going to sit down here in this hotel room. We're going to have this conversation. I like you, blah, blah, blah. Because when you look at the way Ilya tried to go about that, he made tuna melts. I know you have some feelings about tuna melts. Let's get into that actually real quickly.
I don't even know that I have feelings about tuna melts. I just think that is a crazy food for two people to eat right before they're about to have a spicy scene. I think that's why I was just like, I was sitting here with my wife watching. I'm like, could you imagine the smell right now? I was like, we're at the pier all of a sudden. Like that was my first thought. It was just an odd choice for a food, and it seems like throughout the show, the food choices are very specific.
Yes.
Like it's very important that everyone knows that Shane loves ginger ale. It's very important to his character that everybody goes, "Hey, come over. I have ginger ale in the fridge." Like, so I find I'm trying to figure out what the point of the tuna melt was, and I'm having a hard time with it. I feel like I'm like Charlie in Always Sunny, like just drawing lines in between things posted on the wall. Like, there's got to be a reason for it.
The answer is not because Shane is on a macrobiotic diet, by the way.
Okay.
Tuna melts do not fit into that diet. I think parts of tuna do.
We can cross that off.
We can cross that. Yeah, you can remove that pin from your Charlie Day board. But yeah, so like another thing, which we'll get back to that scene in a second. But tuna melts have become, it doesn't make sense, but like now they're a whole cultural thing. Two of my best friends are currently on a cruise, and the cruise is currently serving tuna melts. I have never in my life heard of a cruise serving tuna melts in the freaking dining room, but now they're doing it.
Tuna's back on the menu thanks to Heated Rivalry. That's wild.
Literally. So yeah, so that scene. So, we're going to talk in a second about who fell first, blah, 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 that conversation. But Ilya inviting Shane over. And ostensibly, it's just Shane's coming over for a hookup, right? That's what they've always done. They've never branched out from that. And then all of a sudden, Ilya's asking him to stay the night. And then he's feeding him. He's giving him ginger ale. And so the way that Ilya goes about trying to like make Shane his boyfriend or whatever, or trying to like make them closer, is he starts talking about girls. And do you like girls, right? He goes about it really in a roundabout way, and it really spectacularly backfires because it confuses Shane even more. And then when they do say each other's first names for the first time, Shane freaks out and runs away.
Right.
It just, to me, Shane just, he was like, we're sitting down in this hotel room, we're having this conversation. I like you. I'm not going to pretend I don't. Right.
Yeah. And I think if we're talking about who fell first, I think that's the correct answer, because then it's later when Ilya's back in Russia. And to me, the moment that happens for him is when they're on the phone together and Shane says, why don't you just tell me everything you want to tell me, but in Russian? He's not going to understand a word of it, but it helps Ilya to get it out. And I think by the end of that conversation, he says it.
Right.
But of course, Shane doesn't know that, which I found to be a very fun plot device, as sort of the dramatic irony of us knowing all of this is happening and the characters not knowing.
Yeah. And I do think that maybe that's when the characters admit it to themselves, but I feel like they fall way before. And I think they just don't admit it to them. Like, I'm just imagining why, when you meet somebody, like this is your first time out of Russia, you're in North America, and some like nerdy kid comes to say hi to you, right? Why is this guy doing that? And then you're actually kind of a jerk to him, right? And then you walk away and you still can't stop thinking about each other. Why are you still, in each other's minds? And then they get drafted, and then they have another tournament. So like, this is like they're seeing each other at 6 month intervals at this point. And then Shane says, see you in October at their second, whatever equivalent of the World Juniors is. He says, see you in October. But Ilya can't wait that long to see the freckles again. Like he orchestrates this whole the ad campaign or like whatever. He's in an ad campaign and he gets them to invite Shane. He can't wait that long, right? These people are clearly really obsessed with each other and they don't understand that it's feelings. And one thing that I do think that they did really well in the show, again, it's not just like the fact that like, the whole time it's Shane that's actually in control, even though it seems like it's Ilya, is that I don't think this is like a uniquely queer experience, but it does feel a bit more pronounced, is that sometimes when it's like you're trying to come to terms with what you like or who you like, and then somebody a bit more experienced than you comes along, I sometimes feel like there's not like a power imbalance, but there's an infatuation imbalance, right?
Sure.
And so the show like kind of portrays that really, really well. Because at the end of the second episode, when they hook up in Vegas, but they don't kiss, Shane is typing it out in the phone like, we didn't even kiss before the end of the episode. To me, I just like my heart went to, those moments, like your first whatever, right? Yeah. Especially, and I just find that it is especially pronounced with queer love. I just thought I don't know why that moment was so brilliant. That is actually also from the book. There's no text or anything in the book, but like Shane has that he regret that they didn't even kiss or something. Yeah, my heart was just like, oh Shane, poor baby. And then like in my head I was like, don't worry, I think he likes you too. By the time we get to the cottage, I think it's crazy that, like you were saying, we know that they love each other. It's clear to us, but they're still kind of dancing around it for a bit.
Yeah. And speaking of the cottage and them dancing around it, when Shane's dad is in the cottage and that scene, the location, how it was shot, that was like a slasher film. Like that's how that, you just see the back shoulder of Shane's dad, and I literally got scared. I was like, no, like it was really frightening.
It's like a murder in the house.
Yeah, that's exact. It was dark inside. It was exactly shot that way. Yeah, and just the panic that set in afterwards. But I think do we want to move on to impact here and talk about what the show has meant?
I just want to say one thing when we're talking about like Ilya's best lines in that moment when like Shane is panicking and then Ilya goes, maybe he didn't notice.
Yeah, that was also very fun. Again, a very tense moment.
Yeah.
And that character is written as comic relief in that moment. That was a very funny bit.
Yeah. We're going way over time, but I don't care. I can talk about the show for hours. Okay, yeah, let's talk about the impact. I think for me, one of the biggest things is that we're hearing a lot about people who have that experience. Like they were playing either professional sports or just, organized sports in some way. They were in the closet, revisiting that time. And there've been some really painful stories of some, I wish I could remember his name now. He was talking about how like he watched the show and like it had like a physical impact on him because that was an experience that he had when he was young. And now that he's out, like it's very different, but he had to like kind of come to terms with that. But I also think something that's happening is that the actors are talking about it, the director is talking about it, like Rachel Reed is talking about it, is that there are a lot of people that are still in the closet that are reaching out to them and talking about this. And I feel like it's always gonna be too much to hope that the NHL is gonna learn from this. And we have quotes from Gary Bettman clearly proving that they're not going to learn from this. But the fact that these people feel seen and that they feel heard and that they feel like somebody cared enough to tell a story about them with a happy ending, to me, I think is just incredible. I understand why people love the show so much just based on its merit, right? Like it's fun and there's joy and they're hot and there's, it's beautifully filmed. Like there's a lot of cool, like the music is great. I understand all of those things. But at the end of the day, if there are a few people that feel more seen and feel less alone and feel more hope, I think that's incredible. But something that I have noticed, and I don't understand, but I kind of have a theory about, is that, so I've been, obviously engaging with some of the fandom, not the crazy parts of it, but like, I'm always on Reddit looking at the subreddit. I'm always on threads, like looking at like Heated Rivalry content. That's where I find the memes, right? Like TikTok or whatever. But this weird phenomenon has been happening and I've been looking at it and it's popping up more and more. And like it'll be like somebody being like, so how has this show changed your life? And people will be like, oh, it's changed my life. I work out now. I do this now. It's inspired me to do this. And yeah, I know I made that exact same face.
That's odd.
I made that exact same, but I have a theory. Okay. I think that it's been a long time. Like we've been doing the whole, like, what did you look like in 2016 and all of that. It's been a long time. This is before 2016 too. We've just been kind of uneasy, and the world just keeps getting worse and worse and worse and more hopeless, right? And I feel like people just probably like they put off things like, oh, I want to go to the gym, or I want to pursue a career, or and legitimately people are saying like this is making me pursue my career, this is making me want to take this or dancing classes or whatever. And I feel like we've put off a lot of that because like everything just always feels so heavy. And I, for one,
Sure.
like I am guilty of that too. Like, oh, the world is not like a great place. Like, why should I pursue creative endeavors? Why should I go to the gym? Why should I? Right. And I feel like the fact that this show has provided enough escapism and enough joy for people to remember what it feels like to feel light. I just think that that's probably what that effect is. And I don't think art can cure your depression. Like that's not
No.
what I'm saying. And I don't think that that's what these people are saying, but I have not seen a show that's come around like, and there've been a lot of like, those shows that we escape to for comfort, like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, The Good Place, all that kind of stuff. Where like,
Sure.
what's your happy place show? There's so many of them out there, and they're really good. I think the difference with this is that it has provided people with a lightness that we haven't felt in a long time. And I think also because a lot of the social issues that give us these uneasy feelings have to do with, shoving queer people back in the closet, all of that kind of stuff. And so just having this be just joyful and a celebration and is making just people feel a little bit lighter and maybe just less disinclined to pursue things that make them happy, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
it
Yeah.
does. I'll start at
Um,
the beginning of this where Gary Bettman said that he watched every episode in one sitting. He binged it. I don't believe for a single second that dude has watched a single second of this show. I just don't
no?
believe it. No, he's a culture vampire, man. He'll just stick his teeth into anything that happens in front of him. Anything that he thinks will allow him to stay in the public focus, in the public eye, he's on it. I'm frustrated with the NHL's response to this being like, we'll see you all at the rink. We're so happy the Heated Rivalry. Shut up. Like you banned Pride Tape where you turned Travis Dermott into a folk hero. Like do you realize how bad of a dude you have to be to make like a third pairing defenseman into a guy everybody in the league is putting on their shoulders like Rudy? That's not good. The NHL lacks the self-awareness to recognize that a story like Heated Rivalry does not exist if the NHL is not the NHL, right? If there are players in the National Hockey League who are in the closet. There are. It's just a numbers game. It's just purely the law of big numbers. There's a lot of people in this league. You're telling me none of them are in the closet right now? There's no chance. And the reason they're staying there is because the NHL is the way the NHL is.
It's not safe for them to come out.
It's not safe for them to come out. So for them to be like, we loved it. See you at the rink. Shut up. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it at all. What I am here for is people who watched this without any inclination to be a hockey fan, right? They've never seen a game, but they started watching this, and you see it on socials, you see it everywhere. People going, I think I'm going to get into hockey. And I think that to me is my favorite, is the biggest lasting impact of this show for me. Obviously, as a straight man coming to you on this show, it's going to be a little different. But for me, like having people like that in our sport makes our sport better. It inherently does. So I'm happy that these people are joining. I would start with the P-Dub. I'd start in the PWHL. That's where I would focus my attention. One, it's more accessible. And two, they're a lot more open about these sorts of things. Make your way to the NHL eventually. If you found us without having an NHL team, maybe pick the Canadiens. I don't know. We're having a pretty good time. But,
also, Rachel Reed is a Canadiens fan, just so you know.
Yeah, and so is Jacob
possibly Jacob Tierney. He's from Montreal.
He's from Montreal, and he has said that his favorite hockey player is Saku Koivu. So that's a Habs fan. For me, like that's what I latch on to. That's what you talk about how the show gave people hope and made people feel a little bit lighter to go out and do a lot of the things they do. Interacting with the NHL and this sport on any given day, it can be a nightmare. It just is. Like I'm not going to name any of the things that have happened. I don't need to. All of you are thinking of a different one right now. Like that's how bad it is. So like to have this and to have this influx of people who are going to continue to push the line that these are not things that we want to happen in this sport, that should happen in this sport. That to me is the ultimate victory for the sport of hockey in this, which should not matter at all, but it's a byproduct of this being a really important piece of not only TV, but of literature, of reading. right? Like,
Yeah.
so I think that this is, to me, that's what I take away from the impact of all this. Screw the NHL and their statement. I'm excited to see you at the rink. There's a place for you here. Like, I'm very excited for that.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with you, and I think DJ also said that on What Chaos. It's like it's attracting better fans, right?
Yeah.
The type of people we want to engage with are coming along. I do want to say one thing before we sign off. Are we good to almost wrap up? I just have
There's one more question. It could be a quick one.
Okay.
What do you want to see in season 2?
In addition to like a lot of the Ilya chirping, I just want to see their relationship. Do they like cook together? There's going to be conflict, right? Like that's storytelling. There's desire, there's conflict, there's resolution. I know what happens in the books. I don't know how far of a departure it's going to be. But I just want to see like scenes with them, like just their day-to-day together. What about you?
Yeah. Mine's simple. MPP Laura Stacy cameo. That's what I would really appreciate. I think there is a greater than 1% chance of that happening. I think that could happen. Yeah. That would be really cool. They could just be like walking down the street or something. It doesn't even have to be just something where I'm on my couch and I can just snap my fingers and point at the TV. That's enough for me.
And it's MPP and Laura Stacy. Although, so in the story in the show, Ilya loses at the Olympics and then he doesn't talk to Shane for 6 months. That actually happened with MPP and Laura Stacy. CBC did like a special on them if you don't know about it. And it's all about like their love story. And like at one point they took a break because MPP like could not get over losing at this, I think it was Sochi.
Wow. A lot of stuff happened in Sochi, man.
Yeah, there you go. So like that was actually that is a thing that happens. The final thing that I want to end on is obviously I really love this show. I don't know how many more times I'm going to watch it over and over again. When is the next season coming out? I know the next book is coming out in September.
Put your guesses in the comments. I say 5. I think she watches the series 5 more times through. Yes. Completely.
Okay. Yeah, that could be our trivia question for the day. Oh, yes. Really quickly. The new book that's out is coming out in September. And all I'm going to say is here in Montreal, my friends and I are choosing to pre-order the book in person at Joie de Livre on Saint Laurent. That's all I'm going to say. So, and you can't do it online. You have to do it in person. It's a great place to go. This is a show that obviously a lot of people are engaging with, and some people are getting in like an unhealthy kind of parasocial relationship with the actors and things like that.
Which happens with everything, man.
Yes, everything gets like all fandoms get destroyed from within at one point. But a lot of us are engaging with this and talking about it, and some of us are creating content. There's some really great edits that people are making. There's a lot of good fan art. People are getting great tattoos. We're engaging with and benefiting from this content. For example, if Ian and I get 2 more new listeners because of this episode, that's a way we're benefiting from this content. And so I just want to make sure that those of us that are benefiting from this and we are, getting more of an audience or more exposure or anything, we're getting, jobs out of this or whatever, that we are also ready to stand up for and stand with the LGBTQ plus community when they need it. Gay people are not characters on our television, and all of us kind of have to do our part. And I just personally feel that it's going to be very disingenuous if you grow a followership or you start selling your art or whatever based on the show and you're not ready to stand up for LGBTQ plus people when it's called for. Even on this show, right? Like whether it's us or our loved ones or whatever, like our existence is not, it is sometimes it's a radical act of rebellion in this society, but that's not enough. Like if we have privilege, we have to stand with people. Just because we fall in love with a show, we do have to remember that there's real people in the world that live this experience, and the people behind the show also. Like there's a lot of queer people involved in creating the show. We have to support them, not just by watching the show, but also when it really, really counts.
Yep. Yeah, this is Heated Rivalry, Game Changer, any of this. These are not pieces of science fiction, right? Yeah. This is stuff that's happening. Yeah. So I fully endorse. I hope our show can be a place like that. Yeah.
I also just want to mention that we are actually a Montreal Canadiens podcast. So if you found this show because of Heated Rivalry, but you're a Canadiens fan, or, if you're interested in the Olympics, like right now, while we're recording this, John Cooper is doing his stretches, getting ready to start Jordan Binnington and Anthony Cirelli in a best on best tournament. And if you think I have feelings about bananas and smoothies, just imagine how I feel about bananas in the goal. So I just want to make sure that you subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Ian, actually, I did also want to share our socials. Our personal socials are maybe it's Ian on Blue Sky. Mine is The Active Stick. I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Blue Sky. You can find me there. And our personal socials are not, nobody can access them but us, but the Locked On Canadian socials can be accessed by our social group, like our social team at the network. Those are also Locked On Canadiens on Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. You can also email us at lockedoncanadiens@gmail.com. We just want to make sure that given the content of the show, if you do want to reach us, just be aware that the social team has access to the Locked On Canadian socials. So our personals are Maybe It's Ian and The Active Stick. Anything else we want to say?
This was great. It was fun. I was, when we were talking about doing this episode, I really enjoy episodes where I get to wind Laura up and just watch her go do her thing. This was a lot of fun.
I talked a lot. It was all over the place.
Hey,
but
guess what? It's a podcast and you're on it.
I know. I really hope that, you guys were able to like listen and enjoy it. I hope, you also learned something at the very least. I do have to say, because we have to, make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Canadiens wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. Also check out our Everydayers Club. I will put a link to that in our show notes, and, feel free to reach us anytime. Thank you so much for listening, and we will talk to you all on Monday.